everybody, welcome to the third class in the handstand journey. This one is all about hamstrings, legs, ankles, and feet. So we talked all about these things in our previous discussion in our handstand journey workshop. And if you haven't watched those videos, I highly recommend that you do. And also if you're taking this class as your first class in the handstand journey, that's totally cool. You'll get a great class out of it. But if you're looking to get into handstand and learn more about the principles of how to get into it and hold it in the middle of the room, definitely start at the beginning of this series where we really talk about everything and we piece everything together. So with this class in particular, we're really going to focus on hamstring opening with adding some detail throughout to really practice zipping the legs together and working on what we're doing with our ankles and our feet as well. So a great hamstring opening class, also going to build a lot of heat. So let's actually start at the beginning of class at the front of our mats. So we'll start in a standing forward fold. So find anywhere, any comfortable distance of your feet, ideally right underneath your hips. Big bend in the knees. So find a nice soft bend in the knees, and we'll grab opposite elbows. So first pose of the day, let your head hang. And you want to bend so much in your legs that your upper body is supported on your upper leg. So your thighs pressing against your torso, just gently. And play with straightening the knees just a little bit, not all the way fully extended at the knees, just a little bit straighter to feel the new openings in the hamstrings from doing that. From here, just feel the action of spinning the legs towards one another. So almost as if you can draw the front of the knees, spinning energetically the front of the knees towards one another. Not so much so that the legs actually knock in and face each other, but just feel that action of that spinning feeling of the legs, that internal rotation. You'll feel the hamstrings turn on a little bit more, and you'll feel a nice new opening stretch here. Couple more breaths here just to start. The bend in the knees is always an option throughout our practice to make sure that we're not jamming into the low back and forcing ourselves into any forward fold. And literally any time in any position where we are forward folding at the hips, always an option to bend the knees. Okay, from here, gently, let's roll up all the way to standing. Arms will come overhead. We'll draw the legs together. So with the arms reaching overhead, gaze can be straight forward, and we'll bring the big toes to touch and then zip the legs together. So feel the difference between pulling the legs in towards one another and really pressing them in versus not doing that and standing. All right, so we'll go back and forth. Press the legs together, feel the pose get lighter, feel the midline a little bit more obvious when we're doing this. And then we gently release. The midline kind of goes away. We're not feeling it as much. Let's try one more time. Inhale, everything presses together, reach to the ceiling. Exhale, release. We'll take arms by our side. So that's just one example of really creating the midline by pressing the legs together. All right, we'll inhale, arms high. Let's just get a little bit warm here. Exhale, nice and slow, chest leading, forward fold. Take your time. Inhale, half lift, knees bent or straight. Exhale, plant the hands, and this time we're going to step it straight back to downward facing dog. All right, so in this position, there's really one key thing that I want to talk about in specifically downward facing dog. So from here, we're lifting our hips constantly. You'll notice the lifting of the hips will bring the heels a little bit further from the mat. So the first thing we do in this downward facing dog is keep hips lifted. That action and the feeling of hips lifting is always there. From there, the heels draw towards the mat. You can keep the knees bent or not, but just feel the nice new opening we're creating by lifting through the hips and then opposing that direction with the direction the heels are moving in. So now we're creating length in the hamstrings that we can have building in every down dog we ever do. But we oftentimes let the tailbone relax, let the hips relax in this pose, as opposed to keeping the hips lifting up, the sit bones lifting up, and then drawing the heels down from there. We can add on the internal rotation of the legs. You'll feel a little bit more space in the back, and also a really balanced stretch in the hamstrings here. Few more breaths in this really active down dog, especially if we're engaging all of the principles in the upper body we've talked about previously. All right, from here, please inhale, rock your weight forward to plank. And then exhale, hips lifting, rock it back to downward facing dog. Heels draw towards the mat after the hips have drawn up. Few more just like that speed. Inhale forward. Exhale, hips lifting first, and then the heels draw down. Couple more. Inhale forward. Biceps spin forward, press to the inseams of the hands. Exhale, slowly back. Hips lift first, then the heels draw down. Last one here. Inhale forward. Exhale, hips up, heels down. On an inhale, please bend your knees deeply. And exhale, find your way to the front of your space. Step it forward. Inhale for a half lift. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, arms rise from the sides. Look up. Zip the legs together. Bring the legs to touch. Inhale, midline, we find it. Exhale, arms by your sides. Let's go through that again. Inhale, arms rise. Zip the legs together, press them together as you reach high. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, we'll take half lift, which is also known as Ardha Uttanasana, half forward fold, and we'll create length in the spine, okay? So forward with the chest, back with the tailbone. So this is in a lot of ways just like downward facing dog. We oftentimes rush through this pose. We don't come up as high as we could. But let's come up to about halfway. Knees can obviously be bent, as we've talked about before. Spine is long as we draw the crown of the head forward, tailbone back. Weight is in the balls of the feet, but we're rooting back in the heels as well. So the heels aren't lifting from the mat. And you'll feel when you hold this pose for a while, the hamstrings really turn on. And so the hamstrings are doing double work right now. They're holding you up while they're also stretching. All right, so isometric is really nice. It actually provides functional range of motion for our bodies, and also is a really nice place to be in a warm-up, which is exactly where we are right now. The lifting of the chest upward and the engagement of the upper back protects the low back here. You can always come past halfway, but you want to make sure the chest can stay lifted and we're not crunching down and forward. Protect the low back by staying lifted in the chest. Spin the legs in towards one another and then press through all corners of the feet. So your tailbone is up and back, continuing to draw that up as you draw your heels down. Spin the legs towards one another for 3, 2, and 1. You can safely bend the knees, step it back to plank pose. Inhale, rock the weight forward, engaging the principles of the upper body. Exhale, lower all the way to the mat. Big cobra here. Inhale, lift through the chest. Exhale, lower. 2 more. Inhale, lift through the chest. No weight in the hands. Exhale, lower. Inhale, elbows draw towards one another. Slide the hands energetically back towards you as you lift the chest through the arms. Exhale, lower. Press it back. Downward facing dog. So let's continue to add. So the goal of this whole project, in this workshop, is to start feeling all of the principles in our everyday practice. So let's start adding on. We'll inhale the right leg high. Here's where the pointing and flexing of the ankles comes in. You can point the toes straight back or draw the toes straight back towards your face, flointing. All right, so this is a great place to practice that. Reaching higher. So pointing with the toes, or flointing, pressing the ball of the foot back towards whatever's behind you. Lifting through the hips as you draw the left heel down. So now we're combining this hamstring opening principle in down dog with the lifting of the leg and the ball of the foot pressing back if you're flointing. Exhale, set that down. We'll take the other side. Inhale, left leg high. Feel the back turn on as you reach through both shoulders, hips lifting, right heel drawing down, pressing back through the toes if you're pointing, or through the ball of the foot if you're flointing. Reaching through both shoulders, gripping them out with your fingertips, pressing the inseams of the hands together. So you're starting to see how all of these things are starting to come together. Engage through the core. Exhale, set the left leg down. Inhale, bend your knees deeply, look forward. Exhale, step to the front of the space. Now we have our half lift, integrity, lift all the way up, maybe past halfway, adding cobra in the upper back. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, arms rise from the sides all the way to standing. Zip the legs together. Exhale, arms by your sides. Inhale, arms rise. Zip the legs together. Exhale, sit into chair. And again, we're pressing the legs in towards one another here. You'll feel the pose get lighter. You'll find the midline physically. You'll feel the midline happen as you press the legs together. So maybe feeling a little bit more balanced, feeling like these two legs are becoming one leg beneath you. Arms can be overhead or hands can be at hips. Wherever you are, you're breathing, engaging your core, wrapping all of the obliques together, transverse abdominis, rectus abdominis, all of the core engaged. Arms reaching overhead. For 2. And 1. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, plant the hands, step it back to plank pose. From here, we'll rock it to side plank. So halfway back towards downward facing dog. Just one time, left hand scoots forward, rock onto the outside edge of the left foot, downward angle from the shoulder to the wrist. Right arm comes high. We can stack feet in front of one another, on top of one another. Right foot in front, left knee down. Wherever you need to be for 2. 1, coming back in control, right hand under right shoulder, left hand slides back, and we press it halfway back to downward facing dog. We'll take the other side, right hand forward a few inches, rock onto the outside edge of the right foot, left hand high. Any variation with the legs, if you have the legs stacked, press them in towards one another. So another great place to practice that action of inseams of the legs, creating one leg. Gaze comes back to the mat, left hand down. We'll press it back to downward facing dog. Okay, from here, inhale, right leg high. Find your floint or point. Exhale, right knee to nose, dome the upper back. And then come to the left knee if you need it. Right foot steps forward, setting up for high lunge. Inhale, arms rise. From here, drop the back heel, straighten the front knee. So we have heel to heel alignment or a little bit wider. Okay, so you can step your feet laterally on the mat to create a little bit wider stance. Take the right thumb to the right hip, left hand comes vertical. We're just gonna take one of these, inhale up and back. Exhale, chest leading, forward fold. We're just gonna take one pyramid pose here. Right hip draws back, left hand draws up and forward. Keep the left arm in line with your ear. If you can't, left hand to left hip for 2. Internal rotation of the front leg and 1. Inhale, rise back up. Bend into the front knee. We're here for warrior 1.5. So our hips are facing the front left corner of the mat. Our arms are rising, chest facing the left corner of the mat. Press away through the outside edge of the left foot, left hip constantly feeling like it's drawing forward towards that front left corner of your space for 2. And 1. Flip back onto the ball of the back foot, hands come down, step it back through plank. Optional, chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing dog, 1 back bend. Exhale, downward facing dog. We'll take the other side. Inhale, left leg high. Exhale, left knee to nose, stepping it through however you get there. From here, inhale, rise, high lunge. Exhale, drop back heel, straighten back knee, straighten front knee. Widen the stance if you need it. Want to just make sure we're balanced and not toppling over. Left thumb to left hip, right arm high. From here, inhale, lift it up and back. Exhale, chest leading, forward fold. Reaching up, up, up with the right hand. If you can't keep the right arm in line with the ear, right hand to right hip. Lifting the chest up and forward, internal rotation of the front leg. For 2. And 1. Inhale back. Bending into the front knee, we have this warrior 1.5. Somewhere between warrior 1 and warrior 2. Hips facing the front right corner of the mat. Pressing away through the outside edge of the right foot. Right hip drawing forward. Chest facing the front right corner of your mat. Breathe here, just a few breaths. Left knee stacking right over left ankle. The reason we take this warrior 1.5 is because it really keeps all of the principles of warrior 1 without putting excess pressure in the hip and the low back technically. 1, lifting through the chest, come to the ball of the back foot, plant the hands, step it back. Optional chaturanga, shoulders draw forward, lower down, elbows over wrists. Inhale up. Exhale back, down dog. Let's keep it moving. Inhale, right leg high. So internally rotating both legs. So feel that internal rotation of the back leg. Point or floint with the toes and the ankle. From here, keep the toes as they are. Bring, a little tricky for the coordination. Bring the right knee to the right elbow. Keeping the floint or point. Inhale back. Exhale, right knee to nose. Stepping it through. From here, inhale, rise. Drop the back heel, straighten through the front leg. This time, we're going to transition in and out of pyramid pose. So we want to build nice openness for the hamstring. Okay, so draw the right hip back, lift the chest, left arm comes high, or to the left hip. We want to feel like we're squaring the hips with the front of the space, widening the feet if that doesn't feel possible. Inhale, everything lifts. Exhale, chest up and forward. Control the breath. Inhale, rise. Exhale, forward fold, thinking more about chest up and forward. Inhale, rise. Exhale, forward fold, right hip drawing back, press through the inside edge of the right foot. Inhale, rise. Exhale, chest leading, forward folds. Finding the back bend in the upper back. Inhale back. Last one here. Exhale, forward folds. Inhale, back up. From here, we can split the legs. So we'll take feet about a little wider than hips width distance, maybe about the length of one of your legs between the feet. Hands to the hips. Inhale, lift through the chest. Exhale, gently forward folds. So we're not going to take the maximum forward fold here. Find halfway if you can get there. You can always stop before halfway if the hamstrings are saying no. If you can find halfway, stay there. Okay? So we want to find places to create opening in the hamstrings, and we want to do it properly. So keep the hands at the hips, press to the inside edges of the feet, and then from here, feel like you could press the legs towards one another. Feel the inside edges of the legs turn on. Keep that. Then press away through the outside edges of the feet. So we're staying balanced on the feet. That makes the pose really active. It may look like we're just chilling, but we're really not. Pulling the feet towards one another as we press away through the outside edges of the feet. Lift the chest up and forward, tailbone up and back, just like in our down dog for 3, 2, and 1. Lift it all the way back up. We'll transition back to our high lunge with right leg forward. Inhale up. Exhale, plant the hands, step it back through plank. Inhale forward. Exhale, lower chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, back, downward facing dog. Let's take the other side, keeping the floint of the back foot the whole time, or point if that's your preference. Inhale. Exhale, left knee to left elbow. Inhale, rise, left leg up. Exhale, left knee to nose, stepping it through, left foot, left thumb. From here, rise to high lunge. Exhale, drop back heel, setting up for that pyramid pose on the left side this time. Left hand, left hip. You can also keep right hand on right hip, squaring chest and hips with the front of the space. Inhale, lift. Exhale, forward fold. Keep all the length of the spine as you forward fold. Inhale, lift through the chest. So we want to practice, exhale, forward fold. Practice keeping a long spine and stay lifted in the chest. Inhale, rise, so that we protect the low back in all of our forward folds. Exhale, lower. Inhale, rise, pressing through the big toe mound. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, rise. Exhale, forward fold, thinking chest up and forward as you forward fold. Inhale, up. Exhale, last time. Left hip back, big toe mound of left foot down. Inhale, back. Let's take the feet wide again, so the feet are parallel to one another. And then from here, we're going to take a deeper forward fold. So you can take blocks underneath your hands if you have them. Otherwise, let's create it first. Hands to hips, lift through the chest, all the way up. Slight back bend. Keep all that length as you draw the chest up and forward. Hips draw back and up. Press through the inseams of the feet, lifting into the midline of the pose. Feel the pose get lighter and feel it come into this midline here. Stay rooted onto the outside edges of the feet. Maybe the hands come underneath the shoulders. So now the hands are here to support you. Lift the hips, draw the chest forward, creating a long spine, crown of the head is long. So now with the support of the hands, we're less into the holding of the pose up with our back. And now we can think more of what's going on in the legs. All right, so internally rotating the legs as best you can, even if it's just a feeling. We don't have to outwardly express that movement, but just feel like you're spinning the legs in towards one another. Feel the hamstrings turn on as if they weren't turned on already. And you continue to walk or draw the chest up and forward, keeping the hips up and back. So we want the hips stacked right over the line between our feet. And so the hips never draw forward, but that action of the hips drawing back keeps the length in everything we're doing. Super strong deep breath here. Feel the hamstrings opening in their own time. Feel the heat building in the hamstrings simultaneously. For 2 and 1. To come out of this pose, walk the hands back in towards you. Both hands come to the hips. Lift up and forward with the chest. Come back to standing. We come back to our high lunge. Arms rise. Exhale, plant the hands. Step the left leg back. We're in plank pose. Inhale, shoulder shift forward. Exhale, lower through chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. All right. So we're not going to get into handstand quite yet in this series. We're working towards it. And we're getting there. What I want to practice now is a standing split. So we don't need blocks for this, really. I want to continue this practice as much as we can without the assistance of blocks. They will become relevant eventually, but for now, we're going to try not using them so you can practice without them. All right, so for standing split, we're just going to set it straight up. We're not going to flow into it. So it'll be on our right leg first. And similar to how we started class with both knees bent, body draping over the legs, we're going to actually create that same position, except step the left leg back. So we have our right knee bent, hands planted gently underneath our shoulders. So you'll feel your torso pressing against your right thigh, hands under shoulder. So let's create our handstand hands. All right, so reaching through both shoulders, spin the biceps forward, grip the mat. All right, from here, keeping the bend in the right leg, lift the left leg from the mat. So we're kind of creating this half forward fold / three-legged dog variation. Now from here, we want to just practice the feeling of starting to stack the hips over the shoulders. So if you start to feel like your shoulders are passing your fingertips, walk your fingers a little bit more forward, okay? Walk your hands a little bit more forward. Wherever you are, from here,
Lift onto the ball of the right leg. You can keep the right knee bent. Lift the left leg high. From here, if you can, if it feels okay in your right hamstring, straighten through the right knee. Reach through both arms. Feel the weight shifting into the arms as you lift the left leg higher for 2. 1, bring the right heel back to the mat, bend into the right knee, step the left foot down, step the left foot back and forward to this bent knee forward fold. Take the other side. Okay. Step the right leg back, hands underneath shoulders, keep the bend in the left knee. From here, inhale the right leg high. Feel this. All right. Torso resting against the left leg. Draw the hips up and back. Feel the length in the hamstring already being created as we lift the hips back and away from us. From here, lift onto the ball of the left foot. Feel more weight shifting into the hands. Reach through both arms like pillars underneath your shoulders. And then maybe straighten through the left leg as your right leg lifts. Your right leg may not be as high as mine, and that's okay. Not about comparison, it's about learning. Okay, so just learn from your body. Maybe the straight knee isn't an option today. Maybe coming onto the ball of the left foot isn't an option today. Let's come back the way we came in. Bring the left heel to the mat, bend left knee. Right leg comes back down beneath you. Step the right foot forward. Sitting back down, we'll roll onto our butts. Okay. So hopefully that felt okay. Again, trying to feel as much weight shifting forward into the hands as possible. You'll see how things are starting to come together. Our handstand starting to create itself. Okay, so a little bit of core. I really want to emphasize the feet and the legs here in this 1 boat pose, 1 half boat pose. We're going to hold each for 5 breaths. Okay, so for boat, zipping the inner legs together towards one another, press the legs together. Feel that piece of the pose turn on. Find your foot alignment. So are you pointing your toes? Are you flointing? Either one's great. Lift up through the chest, long spine, arms by your sides, maybe hands behind the knees. You can rock the weight back into full boat pose. Zipping the legs together, flointing or pointing the toes for 5. 4. 3. Keep the legs zipped together. 2. And 1. Inhale, lower to half boat. So we're resting on the sacrum, the bone between our hips and the base of our spine. Point or floint the toes, zip the legs together for 5. 4. 3. Keep the shoulder blades off the mat. 2. And 1. Gently release everything to the mat. All right. So that last pose, combining a lot of the aspects of the core, psoas, and legs and ankles that we've been talking about throughout the workshop. Okay. So from here, just a really quick cool down. We've done most of the practice. Just want to touch on a few things just to round everything out. So we'll bring the heels in towards our body, knees stacked right over the ankles. Keep it that way by pressing the elbows into the mat. Lift through the hips, minimal clenching in the glutes. And if the knees splayed out towards one another, draw them back in so the knees are hovering right over the ankles. Exhale, lower from your uppermost vertebrae to your lowest. From here, we'll take the legs together, zip both legs together, and then we'll draw the knees over to the left. Just a gentle twist here. Keep both shoulders rooted into the mat. Stay breathing. Inhale back to center, and we'll just take it to the other side. Keep both shoulders rooted into the mat. You can scoot your right hip underneath you towards the center of the mat if you feel like you'd like to get a little bit more of a twist.
Inhale, back to center. And then from here, we'll take the soles of the feet towards the ceiling, zipping the legs towards one another. As we start to progress more towards handstand, we want to make sure that we're practicing our handstand poses or the aspects of handstand in everything we do. So press the legs together, point the feet. So as we're letting this pose give us some restoration, give us some reprieve, we're also finding the engagement of the pose and practicing our handstand in a restorative pose, active reversal pose. So actually a strengthening pose, especially if we're pressing the legs towards one another. Pointing or pointing through the toes, extend through the ankles. Feel the ankles opening. For 2. 1, gently hug the knees into the chest. Exhale. Inhale, extend both legs long. Heels slightly wider than your hips, arms at a comfortable distance from your body, palms face up. So as we learn about handstand and continue to piece things together, we obviously have a lot to think about in our upper body, our core, and our legs. But you might notice that the pose will struggle to advance if we don't take this time specifically. This is a pose of centering, of grounding. Ultimately, this is the feeling we want to have internally in handstand. So yes, our muscles will be fully engaged in the pose and we'll be breathing deep and it'll be much more physically engaging perhaps. But our state of mind and our focus is really equivalent. Please give your bodies at least a few more minutes in this position. Staying here for up to 10 minutes today. Thank you all so much for your time. Namaste.